And we're back. It's another episode of the Forever Mighty postgame show. The Ducks come out on top with a much-needed win. Eddie, this was a 3-0 shutout for John Gibson, bumping his save percentage, which is at an all-time Ducks high to .925. He's now second in the league all by himself behind Pekka Rinne. This may not have been the game us Ducks fans wanted, or the game Randy Carlyle wanted, or the team for that matter, but they got the points they needed. I felt like that was the theme for this game. This is a battered Canucks group. The Ducks came out and took advantage.
Yeah, and I mean, it was really all John Gibson in this one, I feel like. I mean, the Ducks played a good game offensively, but they definitely didn't dominate against a team that's sitting out of a playoff spot by a pretty wide margin. And like you said, they're facing their own injury problems. You've got Brock Besser, arguably their best player out of the lineup among others. So, yeah, I mean, it was a good effort, and it's nice to finally get back in the win column, for the Ducks, and I guess for us, because we were pumped that we started 3-0 with the show, and now we're sitting at 3-3, just hoping the Ducks would finally win a game, and we could get back and have a pretty cheerful podcast.
No, absolutely, and we move off of last show's theme from Free Pettersson to he's playing tonight. He took Bieksa's spot. Bieksa, Vermette, and JT Brown all scratched tonight. Tough game for Pettersson and Boschman, though. They didn't have the best of games, which we'll get into later in the show because we obviously have to talk about that. But in this coming into this game, it was talked about as like a must-win mode for the Ducks, and then it was funny because reading Eric Stevens' article today from the OC Register, there was comments about or mentions about how wide of a margin the Canucks are at. It was like they're falling for Dahlin pretty much, and Richie made a comment saying they're going to play pretty loose, and it's like, I don't know. Looking at the advanced stats after this game, they pretty much chanced each other equally. The Ducks gave up some pretty high quality chances throughout this game, and they finally got what we've been asking for. They got some secondary scoring, but as you said, it was a game the Ducks kind of didn't play their best game, and it was mostly Gibby. How do you feel about just overall how this game turned out? Is this something for us Ducks fans to finally be positive about, or is there some homework to do before we play Detroit on Friday?
I think it's kind of a mixed bag. I feel like there's definitely things to be positive about when you come out with a 3-0 win. After the games they played previously, you can't really be too disappointed in it. But it is against a Vancouver team who were battling with a couple injuries. The Ducks didn't really dominate throughout this game. I think they played it a bit safe, which is fine. I mean, coming off 3 losses in a row, you want to do anything you can to get the win. But there's definitely some homework they can do, definitely some things they can look at. And hopefully the secondary scoring can continue to improve and be consistent because they're going to need that. I mean, Detroit's not a hard opponent. Neither is New Jersey. But then again, New Jersey just thwomped the Vegas 8-3 today. So, I mean, they're still going to be tough opponents. The Ducks need every win they can get. So there's a lot of things they could still look at, fine-tune, and get ready for Detroit.
Absolutely. And you know what? As much as we've been down on the Ducks, we got to be positive of the show because we got the much-needed 2 points with San Jose winning in overtime tonight. The Ducks have to try to keep pace to just make sure they squeak into the playoffs here. And so let's go ahead and get the show started here so we can get started with the first period.
Trying to get by Benning. Darnell Nurse left it in the corner. Gets up center. Perry scores!
Able to shake away from Solani. It's given away to Solani around in front. Score! Teemu Solani with the steal. Three in the face, 1-1.
Off the floor, Paul Kariya. And just like that, after the intro again, chat gets lively. Nice to see everybody back in here when we get started into the first period.
It's always a good sign. We got to get cracking on this first period. It was just a great shift by, I never thought I would say, the fourth line. And with all the help from Montour, that gets the Ducks on the board nice and early, just 2:26 into the first period. Chimera with the give-and-go feed to Montour. Montour with the screen, knows there's a screen in front, throws it on net. And as the cliche in hockey goes, throw the puck on net, score some goals. And there you have it. Montour with his first goal in 50 flipping games. What a good feeling for him with how well he's been playing there.
Yeah, it's nice to see him get one. Obviously, he ends up getting 2 in this game, and I think that's big for him.
Spoiler alert, Eddie. Spoiler alert.
I know. I got to throw that. I mean, everybody's coming in. They know what happened. So he got one here. He got the second one later on at the end of the game. And I think on both, he played it pretty well. He pinched in when he had to, showing that he's willing to get up in the play and not overcommit on plays he shouldn't. I thought he looked very good throughout this game, especially on this goal, because he comes down off the blue line, realizes that Chimera is going to win the puck behind the net, and kudos to Chimera as well. It's a good pass out to Montour, and he just gets enough of it to put it in over Markstrom. And good start. I mean, that's what the Ducks needed, really, after these last 3 games, to come out and get a goal in the first 3 minutes and really set the play. I think that was a really, really good start.
And as beautiful as it's been to watch the RPG line put points up and chances up on the board, it's always great to not only get a chip in from a fourth liner, but to have your defense chip in on this goal as well.
Yeah.
Like we were saying, we haven't seen a lot out of that Kelly and Chimera pair that had come over at the trade deadline. And it's nice to see them get on the board. That's Chimera's, I think it was his first assist, if I remember correctly. He hasn't had a point since he's been here.
Yeah.
So good on him to get in. And he was talked about pretty much throughout this game along with Montour. Montour was involved everywhere. As the play goes on, Chimera ends up getting cut off the face-off, 4-minute power play. I got a little pumped for this because this power play just looks, there's so much talent on this first power play unit for the Ducks. So many passes. Just not enough chances being generated where they were getting clean shots off the net or on the net. Is that how you felt about it as well? They love putting out that line of Fowler, Montour, Getzlaf, Perry, and Henrique, and they just feel like that's enough quality to score, and they just couldn't find anything on the power play.
It's almost like they're missing that trigger guy. And I'm going to quote 2 guys here that obviously are kind of unique players, but Ovechkin and Laine, where they've where they're going to be. They have their office on that left side circle, but there's nothing you can do to stop them. And anytime they get the puck on the power play, they're usually shooting it on net. And the Ducks don't really have that. I think that was Perry's job back in the day. And he didn't really work in that office, but he was the guy who would shoot the puck. And now you've got Montour and Fowler who can get some point shots when they can, but they usually like to pass it back and forth, and everything kind of works through Ryan Getzlaf, and they don't have that guy who's going to shoot the puck. And I feel like Raquel could be that guy in the power play, but he doesn't always show that. Sometimes he also likes to make the pass. And I feel like it's kind of a systems thing as well. I mean, they're going to have to set up and tell somebody, hey, you're the shooter. The puck's going to come to you. You're going to shoot the puck. And I don't think it's as simple as that, but that's at least a start and something they can look forward to.
No, it's true. I mean, it's crazy how people look at even just casual fans I've talked to have looked at what Ovechkin does from that circle. I'm like, he's just standing around on the power play. And then when he shoots the puck, how do they not know what's going to happen? It's like, when you're that
you can't
good,
stop it.
It just happens. When you're that good, you've done that one time or a million times in your life. It's just going to go in. So it's a lot to ask for from a player like that. I think Raquel's a great option there for the Ducks, but he does like being fancy with stick handles and also feeding the open man for the pretty play. So maybe they got to look at, I don't know, who else could you slot in there? I don't want to dive too deep on the Ducks power play because it could be potent. But is there anybody particularly you want to slide in on there like that? I know Richie has a good shot, underrated shot, but is that somebody you would trust in that circle?
No, one guy who I think they haven't utilized in that position, they've started to move him in his right position on the power play, but it's Brandon Montour. I feel like he probably has one of the best one-timers on the Ducks and is probably the perfect option to slot in on that left circle. But the problem is then you either have 3 defensemen out there or you're putting Getzlaf back at the point. So, I don't know. I feel like at least if you're looking for a trigger guy who's going to pretty much always shoot for that position, Montour is a really good option. But the Ducks don't really have that guy who can do that. And you don't really always need that guy. Not every team's going to have that guy on their power play. No, not every team sets up like Washington or Winnipeg where you've got a line in Ovechkin to go to. But I still think there's different opportunities where if you have a guy like Raquel, if he gets the puck on his stick, he should be told to shoot more often than not rather than look for the pass. Because like you've written here, the Ducks they'd make too many passes pretty much every time they get a power play chance, and they'll get a couple shots. Sometimes they'll be good quality chances, but they're usually just them overpassing.
No, that's kind of been what's been happening with this power play until later in this game. But for the rest of this first period, you got a lot of nothing from the Ducks and a lot of great shifts from the Canucks putting on some pressure. started to make me a little nervous because it's been so reminiscent of the previous games of how the other team was able to apply so much pressure on the Ducks. I'm like, the Ducks got the first goal here. And, the Ducks need to get some luck, and they end up getting some there. Del Zotto rings one off the post by Gibby. But Gibby had to be good this period. He didn't have to make a ton of insane saves or anything, but he had to be solid. I felt like it was a great game by him, a solid first period there. But the Ducks really didn't get the chances where the Canucks did in this first period. The Ducks ended up getting out of it, though, 1-0, 12-9. They still have the favorable advantage in shots. But when you look at the scoring chances there was 10 from the Canucks and 2 for the Ducks.
Yeah, I think they were lucky to get out 1-0 and continue to have the lead. And I mean, I guess that's something we haven't really seen, because there's a lot of times where the Ducks have got caved in the period and they've come out of it worse for wear, or they've had a goal early and then they've ended up getting tied up and just going into the second period tied with all the momentum for Vancouver. So I think they kind of suffocated that momentum out into going into the second period because they were able to go in with a 1-0 lead, which is nice to see. I mean, they didn't play a great period, but they're able to grind it out, get a goal early on, and continue into the second with a lead. And I think that's huge, because you looked at their record, I think it was like 18-4-6 when leading after the first period. And I know that doesn't necessarily mean much, but it's always good to continue to have the lead after the first 20 minutes.
Hey, when you're trying to make a final playoff drive, you'll take any advantage, any statistical thing that's going to tell you have a better chance of winning. Whatever odds are in your favor, you're going to go ahead and run with them.
Yeah.
Starting in the second period here, it was kind of a weird beginning to it. And then, I mean, just for the sake of the fact that the Ducks just love to give up chances on when they're on the power play, Brandon Sutter ends up getting in behind the Ducks defense, and Henrique's forced to take a hooking penalty. Gibby still makes a save, so good on Gibby to hold the fort down there. But I guess the scariest thing that happened in this period was Lindholm takes a puck to the face, ends up hitting him in the chin. You got a pretty good gif of that, by the way.
Yeah, it looked like it could have been scary just the way it hit him, because you didn't know if it hit him in the neck or the chin or like right under in his jaw. Obviously, he left and ended up coming back, which was great, but just what the Ducks would need at this point, where Lindholm's actually starting to play a lot better, getting back to what we're used to seeing from him, and just for him to go off and end up heading to the locker room because of something like this, it's worrying. I mean, the Ducks need everybody right now if they're going to make a push and actually get into a playoff spot.
No, and it doesn't really matter to say it, because I mean, we all know Lindholm comes back in the third there, but I mean, it's so easy to have someone get a cracked jaw, fractured jaw, or something off a shot like that. Even though the shot was a wrist shot, you never know. You never know what kind of damage is done. He missed significant time in the second period getting fixed up. There was a bit of a chance here where I thought maybe Richie was going to have a chance to score. I thought old Richie was going to get on the board here. Montour with a slap pass, as we've been talking about Montour since we started the show, and how how much he's been involved in the play. Richie, I guess, has just not scored in so long. He decided to make an extra move when he had a wide open net, and Markstrom makes the save.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of trademark of a guy who hasn't scored in a while. A guy who's not really used to being in those chances. He's overthinking it a bit, trying to go to the backhand and doesn't get a lot of elevation on it. And I mean, at least he's in the position, and it was a great pass by Montour, who continued to have a great game in this one against Vancouver. But I feel like if you've got Raquel in close there, or anybody who's have some bit of confidence right now, that's probably in the back of the net, because that's a shoot-first opportunity. But I mean, like I said, hey, he's at least in those positions. I feel like that line was getting their chances tonight. Obviously, didn't get on the board, but I feel like they looked a lot better. The numbers back it up too. They actually looked like the line we kind of expected to see from them a couple weeks ago. So it's nice to see them kind of turn things around, at least getting some opportunities on net.
And I have to agree with that. And then the other big thing that comes around here, though, is the RPG line makes themselves known again. I know they don't score in this game, but I mean, they really dominated that second period. I felt like you were seeing Getzlaf and Raquel and Perry all over the ice. There was a couple of huge chances for the Ducks to score. Getzlaf had a pass. I mean, they love making those tic-tac-toe plays, and it just happened. I think it hit Edler's skate in front, or it was Raquel wide open for a slam dunk in front. And then Raquel would come back in on the rush and toe drag around a defender, and Markstrom had to make a really nice save there between the arm and body.
Yeah, that was a filthy move by Rickard Raquel. We've seen that from him a lot, not just this season, but pretty much since he's been up with the Ducks. he just can pull these moves out of nowhere, and he just makes guys look silly. I mean, the one that I always refer to is that overtime winner he had against Edmonton. I think it was last year or the year before that, where he just walked around a couple guys and just deked out Talbot and put it into the back of the net. And I felt like he was almost going to do that on this play if he had a little bit more room. But yeah, I mean, he's a guy right now who's just creating things out of nothing. You have that play, and then you have the play